Hey, what's up? How you doing? This is Brandon from Guardian Devil Kennels. Today I want to show you guys how to cook some food for your dogs. You know, instead of giving them the dry dog food, you know, we improvise over here at Guardian Devil Kennels to achieve maximum health. So we give our dogs real food. What you see here is, right here you got some ground beef, about 3 pounds of ground beef, about 3 pounds of carrots, a pound and a half of broccoli, some legumes, or known as pinto beans, but I like to call them legumes. Sounds fancy. Got some potatoes right here, and I got some cooked chicken right here that I just need to get off the bone a little bit, and some of it's already peeled. For the carrots and the broccoli, for the health of the dogs, I like to put in a lot of vegetables. Dogs do not like vegetables, but you have to put the vegetables in their food. One of the first things you want to actually do is you want to get a pot of water boiling. Normally I use b.a.r.f. right here, but I got it full of those legumes that we talked about earlier, so I'm not going to be able to use my 15-quart pot, so I'm going to have to reduce it down in size to just my regular kitchen pot, just something I use for myself. I got it full about halfway up with water, as you can see here. I'm just going to bring the temperature up on that so it could boil, and we can go ahead and put our meat in there so the meat can flavor the water, and toss the rest of the ingredients in and lightly cook them and have our dog food ready. So let's go to the next step. The very next step you might want to go ahead and do is go ahead and actually, before we do this step, you want to get your potatoes and put your potatoes in either a convection oven or regular oven, or however you choose. I soften my potatoes. They're nice and soft so I could squeeze them, you know, break them down, crumble them down into their food. I soften my potatoes at about 450 degrees for about an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. That gets them nice and soft. Next step you want to do is take your knife. You want to actually cut your carrots down into, these are raw carrots now, people. You actually want to cut your raw carrots down into, let's say, food processor size pieces that can fit into your food processor, or whichever method you're going to use to break them down smaller to get your dog to eat them. Now, if you don't have a food processor, you might be able to chop little tiny pieces like so, just to get, you know, you might even want to go smaller than that, just to get your dog to eat this. You're going to have to make it kibble size. So yeah, get your carrots and your broccoli both chopped up. Once you get the broccoli and the carrots chopped up into pieces to go into the food processor, you're ready to go into the next step. Alright? So I'm going to go ahead and take care of this, and we'll go to the next step. Well, here we go. We got our water finally boiling. So I'm going to go ahead and now induce my ground beef into the boiling water, like so. Make sure we get it all here. Alright? Just going to give this a light cooking, guys. Just remember, I mean, do whatever you prefer. If you want to do a heavier cooking, cook it all the way for your dogs. You can go ahead, but I'm just going to do a light cooking. I like giving my dogs semi-raw, then I like giving my dogs raw, then there's some days where I like giving them fully cooked. So do whatever makes you happy. But yeah, we're just going to break this up with a spoon and go on to the next step. We'll come back when this is done. So the next step will go and be put the carrots into your food processor. Let's get the top on that. Got them all nice and chopped up. Make sure your top's nice and tight. Now the top's nice and tight, go ahead and blend those. Get them nice and small for the animals. That way, when you're done, good enough to eat. Let's go ahead and get those over to a bowl. So now to go ahead and food process the remainder of the vegetables. We have the broccoli here. Chop on that. Make sure it's tight. Got to make sure everything's broken up really nice, so that way the dogs never know they're eating vegetables. Alright, so go ahead and take a glance here at the broccoli that I food processed. I'm going to go ahead and put that into the bowl. Remember to remove the blade. Sometimes you get a little bit of stuff stuck in your dish here. Remember to remove the blade. And I'm going to go ahead and finish up the broccoli, and I'll be back. See, what I had to do was, since I got so many dogs, I decided to go ahead and use b.a.r.f. So I had to transport my beans to a different pot so I can keep this project going. So now that said, I'm using a different pot, and just to continue, catch you up, this is just my ground beef right here in this pot. It's done cooking. I'm ready to put my chicken in, my cooked chicken. So here we go. That's about 1.5 pounds cooked deboned chicken, white meat and dark meat. Get that off in there. Sorry for the noise. What you want to do, just like the beef, just mix it in. I like to keep my dog food about 55 to 60% meat, maybe sometimes 70. I sometimes add extra raw meat in at the end. Depends on what I'm doing. But today we're going to keep it about 60% meat. Alright, so we're going to let that simmer for a second, and we're going to throw our vegetables and potatoes in. So alright, the next step, what we're going to do is add a few bowls of legumes, or pinto beans, black beans, whichever kind of beans you like to use. They're really good for the dogs. I'm going to add these. Now, I pre-cooked these ahead of time, so you guys are going to definitely have to pre-cook those ahead of time. I put a little bit of carrots, a little bit of bacon in my beans when I cook them, just for a little bit extra flavor for the dogs. So, yeah, just add that in, then we're going to give it a stir. Give it a stir. Now, earlier I was talking about the juiciness of the food. Right now, the water is about 35%. Now, when I add the potatoes and the vegetables in, that's going to soak up the rest of the water. Now, if you seem to have more dry ingredients than wet ingredients, you can add more water in. But just remember in the end that you don't want the dog food to come out soaking wet, kind of like how it is right now. The finished product, you'll see in a little while, will be a lot drier than this. But this is an au jus, or a gravy, that I like to have because the dogs love tasting it when they're eating their food. So it's definitely okay to use water to keep that au jus, or that gravy, going. So next we'll get the potatoes, and we'll get those over in here with the beans, chicken, and the ground beef. Okay guys, so being that your potatoes were already cooked at 450 degrees at about an hour, hour and 20 minutes time, they should be soft. Now, you could put gloves on. Usually I use gloves. I should use gloves right now, but I'm not going to use them. You can use a potato masher. I just like to use my hands. It gets it done real easy since they're soft. Crumble them up. Just get in there, crumble them up. You know, break them down. I like to leave them kind of chunky. I like to leave everything chunky. That way, in the end, the dog food will have a kibble effect. Everything will be kind of like, you know, kind of kibbleish. So yeah, just get these all mixed up. Make sure you get them all. Don't leave too big of chunks because the dogs don't really like to eat solid potatoes. But they'll eat them like this because, see, what the potato does is it goes down in the gravy, and it's going to absorb the juice from the meats. And since potatoes are protein, it's going to act as a meat in the food. So I'm going to get this all broken up and crumbled up, whatever you want to call it, and we'll be back. All right? All right, seems that we got these potatoes all broken up. So next what I'm going to do is get those potatoes over into your pot with your ground beef, broken up chicken, pinto beans, and gravy, or au jus. Just pour them over in there. Alright? Got those all down in there. And just like every other time, guys, just give it a mix. Make sure you're getting all those ingredients, all that meat, those beans and potatoes mixed, construed all together. Alright, we got our potatoes, ground beef, chicken, and our beef juice and our beans and chicken juice mixed together, all in the pot. We're going to go ahead and add in one of the last steps, the broccoli and the carrots. So let's go ahead and put the broccoli in right now. Alright. Okay, now on to the next step. We're going to put the carrots into the pot along with the broccoli and all the other ingredients, completing this meal. Then we're going to give it a stir one more time, just like everything else. Get that mixed in real good. So just continue to make sure that all the meat and potatoes and beans mix in with the vegetables. It should look something like this. As you see, the juice dried up and it's mixing into the food. As it sits, the dry food will absorb more of the water. So just mix that, and we'll go on to the last step of letting this cool, then feeding it to the dogs. Alright, so the final step is to go ahead and put it in a bowl and sit it in front of your dog so he can eat it. I did everything for you so you can see how to make your dog real food. If you want, you could put this over dry dog food and use it as a topper, or just feed it to him like this.